So let's suppose that we want to find the minimum work required to move a vehicle with a mass of 1,500 kilograms 200 meters up an inclined plane that has an angle of 7 degrees with respect to our x-axis. So we're assuming there is no friction, and we're also assuming the net force acting on the car is constant. So let's begin by looking at the following diagram. So in the diagram, we have our angle that the inclined plane makes is 7 degrees, and we have the initial point where the car begins and the final point where the car ends up. Now our displacement along our inclined plane given by A is 200 meters. That's something that we know. Now we can also determine displacement along our y-axis of the vehicle by simply using our sine function. Sine of the angle 7 degrees multiplied by 200, our displacement along our inclined plane, is equal to 24.4 meters. So we can attack this problem in one of two ways. So we can either find the net force acting on the car along our inclined plane and then multiply by displacement along the inclined plane, or we can find the net force acting on the car along our y-axis and then multiply by a displacement along the y-axis. So we're going to use method number 2. Now, because our net force acting on the object is constant, we can use the following equation for work. So work by a constant force is equal to the force, the magnitude of the force acting in the same direction as motion, and multiplying by our displacement. So let's begin by recalling that our displacement along the y-axis is 24.4 meters. So now we want to find what the magnitude of force is that's acting in the same direction along the same axis as our displacement. And the only force that's acting is the force of gravity. So gravity is pulling our car downward. So that means the force parallel to our displacement is equal to the gravitational force, is equal to mass times our gravitational constant, and that's equal to our mass multiplied by 9.8 meters per second squared, and we get a force of 14,700 newtons. So in other words, gravity exerts a constant force that has a magnitude of this value as our car progresses up the inclined plane. So that means the car must do this force to push the car up, a minimum of this force. So to find the work, we simply take this force multiplied by displacement and we get the following value. So 3.6 times 10 to the 5 joules. This is how much work must be done by the car against the force of gravity to move the car a distance of 24.4 meters along the y-axis. So to move the car along our inclined plane from the initial point to the final point.